Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, I would like to presentation the material about happiness over suffering in poem London 1794 by William Blake with deconstructive criticism. This is table of content, uh, introduction, discussion, conclusion, and reference. Okay, this is the introduction. The introduction is deconstruction theory is a theory introduced by Jacques Derrida. Initially, deconstruction was a way or method to read a literary text. This method is an act of a subject to question, dismantle an object that has been composed of various elements, according Norris. A text in the view of deconstruction will always present many meanings, so the text can be very complex. The meaning in the text can also be complex, which also the reader to speculate that the meaning are not singular but plural in nature. Therefore, deconstruction lives in the text ambiguous and does not challenge all possibilities. According to Barker, deconstruction is parodying, dismantling to find and expose various assumptions, rhetorical strategy, and empty space of the text. Okay, deconstruction is not just disabling it completely and leaving it alone. According to William, said in order for deconstruction to be useful for the progress of society, a new action is needed. The action is called reconstruction. Reconstruction means the continual rearrangement of structure without also continual deconstruct. A. London. The Poem of London is a poem by William Blake, published in 1794. The poem London describes and shows the atrocities and injustice that occur in society and criticize the Crown and the British monarchy. This poem contains social complaints from people who are marginalized or who get intimidated by those around them. Those who experience the consequence of this poem, such as the labor on prostitutes and chimney sweepers during that time. The Industrial Revolution was a period and event that all changed people's life and society significant. Okay, discussion. In this poem, Blake described the social condition of the lower class at that time, which changed due to the Industrial Revolution, like the condition of the city of London, which has become dirty and slow due to the large number of factory construction and the increase in population due to urbanization. Second is the large number of workers who are children and prostitutes. And the last is the level of welfare of the lower class people, this risk of social injustice. This poem happened during the Industrial Revolution. What is the Industrial Revolution? The Industrial Revolution is a time when human workers from various fields of work are replaced by machines, which result in many people coming from village to come the center of London to get a better job with a fairly large salary, but because the surge result in the emergence of laborers who were still children and prostitutes were rampant at that time. If we relate to the theory of deconstruction and take the point of view of using binary opposition, misery of suffering is the opposite of happiness. And in this poem, there is happiness that is only felt by the upper class people because of the suffering felt by the lower class. In the third stanza of the poem London, we can see that the There is the word palace with a symbol of luxury that only the upper class people have and the nobles who can feel it. Happiness during the Industrial Revolution is only known and enjoyed by the upper class without being known by the lower class people. The upper class people in this poem are never mentioned as suffering, even though they came from London. Um, in the third and fourth stanza, we can see that support authority, the nobly encouraged, was the only who caused all the misery in London. Their happiness come from the suffering of others. The happiness of the upper class people is the result of the suffering of the lower class people. Along with the previous new perspective, we can also interpret this poem as a critique of the Industrial Revolution. The support authority, who is responsible for the welfare of the people, is the one causing all this suffering. This poem can also act as a comment that this suffering will happen if we stick to nature and reject the Industrial Revolution. Therefore, suffering and happiness are interrelated. One must suffer so that the other can be happy. This is conclusion. In this poem, we can see that London is a place full of suffering from the lower class people, but in this poem we can see how and why they suffer in this first place. In this poem, it can also be seen that the upper class is very thirsty for power and they feel happiness about the suffering of others. It can be seen from their ignorance of the suffering that has been felt by the lower class people. They only think about their own happiness. This is my reference and thank you for watching. I'm sorry if I have mistake. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.